Okay.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you, Lord, for a beautiful day that you've given us here in Southwest Florida. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to serve our constituents here. And we pray, God, that you would give us the wisdom and guidance, the agenda that's before us. And we give all this to you in your name. Amen.
All right, I'd like to ask Linda, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would somebody please take the roll?
Linda Waterhouse,
Here.
Gerald Benson,
Here.
Chairman Rassio, Ben Hershenson,
Here.
Gary Gambrell,
Here.
Russ Wynn,
Present.
Bruce Galloway.
Here.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the last meeting, which was September 21. So what is your pleasure? Anybody have any comments regarding the minutes?
No
I don't.
Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second it.
Linda, you approve, okay, and we're seconded by Russ. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes approved. We start off usually with public comment. I don't think there's anybody with any public comment at this particular point, but if there is, you can speak during the actual hearing. Is that correct, Carly? I think that's how it works. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll begin, I guess, with the first public hearing, and I believe that for all those who are here who plan to speak, they will need to be sworn in. So I look at Carly to carry on that procedure.
Sure. Could you please read the title block into the record first?
Okay, the
Case number.
first case is Primo Special Exception, SPE 2179524-BOS. Again, if you plan to testify, and this is a special exception request to allow an automotive repair and service, Group 1 use, with an indoor car wash use within the historic zone of the Bonita Beach Road Corridor Overlay.
Okay, everyone who intends to testify on this case, could you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good morning, Mary Zizzo for the record. I'm going to let the applicant go ahead and present first, but just as a brief introduction, this is a request for an indoor car wash and an indoor auto and repair use for a ceramic coating and detailing facility within the Causeway Commerce Park.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning. Joe McHarris, representing the owner and the applicant for Primo at Causeway Commercial Park, just off Old 41, south of Bonita Beach Road. This is a special exception to allow ceramic detailing shop with a private indoor car wash. Mary did mention body work, but that has nothing to do with painting, hammering, anything like that. That's all this has to do with paint correction body work. That means if there's a chip or something, they touch it up. There is no painting. It's all done with a ceramic coating, which is a technology that's a lot better than your old paste that goes onto a car. We've been through the process, 2 public meetings. At the first meeting, we only had 2 people show up. They were in favor of it. They were neighbors to the facility that we're asking for the special exception, and they just wanted to know what was going on. Second public hearing, we had 1 person, and again, he was owned something in the area, and again was in favor. Also, I know staff recommendation is for approval, and they've done a very good job and thorough job of vetting this process. And we have the owner of Primo here, and also the owner of the unit, and myself, should you have any questions for us. But I know staff has done a detailed presentation. So I thank you, unless you have any immediate questions.
Any questions on the part of the zoning board at this point? Okay.
Thank you.
Mary?
Good morning again. Again, this is a request, as previously mentioned, within the Causeway Commerce Park Unit M8, which is the most northeastern unit within Building 1. So the closest you approach going southbound on Old 41, as we'll show later. Previously mentioned, this is a request for an automotive repair and service group 1 use. Our code does explain that a detailing or ceramic coating facility would be considered an auto and repair and service group 1 use. In addition, this is also a special exception for an indoor car wash. The property is located within the Bonita Beach Road corridor overlay within the historic zone, and both of those uses require a special exception. The unit is approximately 2,800 square feet, and the requested business is proposed to operate by appointment only. Staff does recommend approval, subject to the conditions that were outlined in the staff report. For those not familiar, Causeway Commerce Park is just south of Bonita Beach Road on Old 41 on the western side. A bit closer of a map, not very clear. The project is part of a greater development order, and this is a condominium located within Building 1, as previously mentioned. To show better, this condo is located on the corner. The pedestrian access is proposed to be at this door, crossing the handicap spaces, and then the access for the vehicles to enter would be from this door. This is an existing window that is proposed to become a roll-up door that appears as though it's the same as the windows. Architecturally, they look the same. The use would require that these spaces be turned into either reserved parking or reserved area for the actual unit. So these would no longer be parking spaces for the remainder of the condominium. Staff does not have concerns with the parking calculations. They have adequate parking there, so the removal of these spaces is not a concern. The applicant will be required to amend those spaces and modify the site appropriately to indicate that that is what those are intended for. And this slide, we can maybe lower the lights if that's easier. This slide allows you to see what the actual site looks like currently. So over here, and these pictures are in your packet as well, would be the side with the roll-up door, and these are the spaces, and then this is the pedestrian access and entrance. Staff did initially have concerns because this request,
There's a, on the clicker?
oh, it has one too.
Yeah.
Okay,
This
It's
will go on
yellow,
the
isn't it?
screen, yeah, but they can see it that way.
okay, I'll do that one, thank you. Staff did initially have concerns regarding the request because it requires crossing a sidewalk within the complex. But we have worked diligently with the applicant to make sure that the conditions make it for a safe approach for the vehicles, including requiring wheel casters so the vehicles are not on when they enter or exit the building, and they will be manually pushed by the staff to enter into the unit to make sure that obviously there will be no pedestrians just crossing by. One of the conditions also is that the applicant is required to provide adequate signage and safeguards to make sure that pedestrians are aware that a crossing will occur. The proposed floor plan can be found in your packet as well as here. I put this specific slide on there to show where the sound deadening material will be installed. So within this area here is the proposed indoor car wash, constructed within an enclosure surrounded by sound deadening material. The wall behind it, as well as the entire storage room, will also have the sound deadening material so that no noise will transfer along this unit, which is currently owned by Truly Handy. Within these spaces, they can accommodate up to 3 additional vehicles for the ceramic coating process, which the applicant can explain more in detail if you have questions. From how we were informed, the process includes using a sponge and a bottle, and you manually apply it rather than the loud machines that I initially thought would be used. Here you have the seating area for the patrons, but as previously mentioned, this process takes multiple days, so these vehicles will be here for multiple days, and the customers will drop them off and pick them up as the appointments allow. Also in your packet are the surrounding uses. As previously mentioned, the side closest to the indoor car wash is Truly Handy, the pest company, and then on the adjacent side is the wine club, which is by reservation only. This request with the conditions would make it so that no appointments can be after 4 o'clock. I would presume that the wine club peak hours tend to be more in the evening. Staff did recommend approval of this request pursuant to the considerations. A few that I wanted to mention that are also in your staff report are the existing or changed circumstances. We do have an increase in high net worth residents. They have more higher end cars, and these cars cannot go through the standard car wash such as Clean Machine or others that are in the typical tunnel method throughout the city. These cars need to be maintained in a more touchless scenario, so this facility proposes to do so that way. As previously mentioned, there were concerns of noise, vibration, and similar uses within the complex. No similar uses should be approved. This use does require a special exception, so nothing there should be similar to this. And the concerns of noise and vibration were addressed at that meeting, as they previously mentioned. The future land use within this facility is industrial, and this does meet the light industrial definition to satisfy the Bonita plan. And Bonita Springs Utilities has reviewed this application to make sure that their utility infrastructure will not be affected by this application. We do find this request compatible with the existing and planned uses. There are multiple commercial and industrial uses within the complex. Many contractors or administrative offices for industrial uses are there as well. And based on the conditions we have, we do not believe that the request will cause damage, hazard, or nuisance, as the cars will not be turned on whatsoever while they are within the unit. They will be turned off as soon as they are parked and brought in via wheel casters, which would prevent fumes or noise. And as previously shown, there will be sound deadening material to make sure that the car wash does not create any excess noise as well. So staff does recommend approval, and these are the conditions laid out within the staff report. Specifically, hours of appointment for pickup, drop-off of the vehicles is 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The floor plan was already shown, and the use will be constructed entirely and operated entirely within the unit, so the door is to remain closed at all times unless they are actively loading or unloading a vehicle within the unit. The cars are to remain off, and the applicant is required to modify the spaces as addressed so that they are adequately marked. They shall also provide adequate signage to provide safeguards for vehicles entering the unit, and the EPA will govern the best management practices for any materials stored within this site. With that, do you have any questions for me or the applicant?
Zoning board members, any questions of Mary?
I've got applicant questions.
Okay, that's fine. Is there anybody else here to speak for the applicant, other than the gentleman who was here before? Do you wish to speak at this point?
And we have the owner of the town.
Okay. Do either of you wish to your comment at this time? Everybody's pointing the arrows at you. No, you do not. Okay, thank you. But to respond to some questions, would you please come up to the microphone.
All right, anything you want to say, or go right into questions?
You can go right into questions.
Okay. How happy are you with, your last appointment is 4 PM? Seems pretty early to me, especially for folks that are working and want to pick up their car after work.
It is, but it keeps everything organized and it doesn't crunch everybody between traffic times for Old 41 between 4 and 6.
That's true. But you're happy with it?
Oh, yeah.
The, Mary, can you back up to the recommendations slide, the one right before this, please? Go forward one more,
Which one is it?
right there. Sorry, sir, what's your name?
Oh, my name is Jonathan Christopher.
Hey, Jonathan, I'm Gary.
Hi.
So how many personnel does it take to put the car up on the dollies and push it in?
2
Two persons.
minimum.
And you're happy with this? We have to put pedestrian signs on the sidewalk while you've got personnel out there pushing a car?
Yeah, there's going to be cones with marked off like, 2 cones with the bar across to make sure no one crosses when everything's going in or out.
It just seemed like overkill to me. You've got personnel out there that can tell pedestrians, hey, we're moving a car.
Well, we got to have 2 out there and 1 watching just to make sure with the car and then pedestrians coming around. So even though it's a kind of overkill,
That was my thinking.
but I think it's necessary for the safety.
Is there a legal requirement for that, Mary, Carly?
We made it as a condition to make sure that all pedestrians were notified. We do not have ADA safeguards placed in there, so this way they can formally notify any person walking by.
But so long, Jonathan, you're okay with it? You're gonna do this every time a car goes in or out?
Every time.
That's all I have.
Any members, comments from the members of the zoning board? Okay, there's one question, there was a, one, I guess, an opposition comment that came in, I just put on the desks this morning, and I just needed some guidance here relative to this particular comment. Relative, and I look at the attorney representing, again, the city, Holly, I'm just kind of wondering, on an issue of competition, is certainly would not be in any ordinances, would they, regarding a reason to, either negate an applicant? There's nothing relative to competition, am I right? There's a reason.
Do you have a copy of this?
If I may for a moment, I did include that paper today. I did not initially provide it in the packet, but I did mention it and reference it within the staff report. I did speak to that applicant. She needed to that notifier. She needed a little bit more explanation as to what the request was, and the business she references is not the same use. And no, we do not have a specific code requirement that says competition would negate this.
That's what I figured, competition is the whole idea of our society at this point. All right, are there any other comments on the part of,
One more question for Mary,
Go ahead,
sorry,
Gary.
related to this. And I apologize, usually I go look at the space, but a couple of months ago, I was driving around there looking for an auto detailing place. Aren't there a couple of auto detailing places fairly close by, like in the next complex or something?
This specific applicant is already located within a unit, was not able to obtain a use permit because the use was not allowed by right. So they are requesting to do so lawfully in a different unit, and that unit will go away.
Where's the unit they are in now?
Unit 20, I believe,
In the same
in
complex?
the same building.
Aren't there a couple of detailing places like the next complex down or something? Or are they all mobile detailing places? Because I had to get my car detailed, I was looking and found a couple nearby.
As far as we know, this is the only ceramic detailing facility in this area. There are probably others that are around the area, but this one is, he could do regular detailing, but his specialty is ceramic coating, which you have to be trained on, and you have a certain process and other requirements. And what Mary was talking about with the car wash is most of the car washes are, they touch the car. You cannot touch a car with whacking it or you'll damage the ceramic coating. So this is a touchless car wash inside. So those are the things that make this specific to this design. Really, if someone's just doing regular detailing, it's not really in competition with what Jonathan does. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
All right, anybody else on the zoning board have any questions? Anybody from the public, any more questions? Seeing and hearing none, the chair is ready to entertain a motion relative to this application.
I move we accept this application for special exception.
There's a move by Gary to approve this recommendation. Is there a second?
Second it.
Seconded by Ross? Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? And there's somebody here to read what the motion is going to be. It's basically approving the recommendations of the city and the endorsement, or I should say the approval by the zoning board members. Reference the case number. So all those in favor signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
And we need a roll call, I guess, make it official.
Okay. Linda Waterhouse,
Yay.
Gerald Benson,
Yay.
Ben Hershenson,
Aye.
Gary Gambrell,
Aye.
Russ Wynn,
Aye.
Bruce Galloway.
Aye.
Okay, the motion has carried, so the case name Primo Special Exception SPE 21-79524-BOS has received the unanimous approval by the zoning board.
Thank you.
Okay, now, are we ready to go on to the next case, or does anybody need to take a break? Probably not, it's kind of early yet. All right, the next case before us is Rooftop at Riverside Special Exception, SPE 21-82680-BOS. A special exception request for a mobile food vendor park on properties in the downtown district pursuant to Land Development Code Section 4-868. So, Mike, please go right ahead.
Good morning, Mike Fegon, Senior Planner with the City of Bonita Springs. Before we get started, I think you need to swear in
Yes.
people for this
Okay.
particular case.
Yes,
But anyone who intends to speak on today's matter, whether you are the applicant or a member of the public, if you have any inclination whatsoever that you may wish to testify on this matter, please raise your right hand. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. All right, I'll hold you to it.
okay, continue, Mike, thank you.
Good morning, Zoning Board. Mike Fegon again for the record. I'm just going to give a brief introduction here, and we'll let the applicant go first with their presentation. This is a special exception request for a mobile food vendor park on properties in the downtown district located off of Old 41 here in Bonita Springs. The properties are currently owned by the city, and the way it is written out in the form-based code is that the use of a mobile food vendor park would require a special exception. Staff and the applicant are in agreement with the findings and with the conditions that are outlined in the staff report for you. The applicant does have a presentation that they will go ahead and go through with you. My understanding, it's a very detailed presentation, so we will go from there. If you have any questions of myself or the applicant, we're here to answer them. I have a brief presentation after the applicant's done, and we'll go from there. So, thank you.
All right, for the applicant, please step forward. Introduce yourself for the record and make your presentation.
Good morning. My name is Chris Magnus. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today in front of the zoning board. This is a really, really exciting opportunity to bring activity to downtown Bonita Springs, to bring a great, unique, entertainment venue, and a really unique and fun dining venue to Bonita Springs. So I'm here to tell you today why life is better at the top, the rooftop at Riverside. Bonita Springs has always been very important to my family and I. I'm here with my father, Jim, today as well. We're building the food truck park together, and in the development of the logo, we did this for the RFP number 2002 for City Council. I spent some time at the Historical Society's library, and I thought that Bonita Springs was really just kind of a fishing village in the beginning, but it turns out that we were really citrus farmers at the very beginning. So we kept the Imperial River. We have two-toned water in our logo for that represent the Gulf salt water and also the fresh water in the Imperial River, and the orange circle for to represent the citrus. So the theme of the bar is the history of Bonita Springs. We think it's going to be fun and educational for our community, and really kind of a point of pride for our community as we grow and bring more activity to the downtown. Our goals and objectives with this project, as I've been saying, are to bring activity to downtown. We want to add value to the community through the rooftop at Riverside. We're going to bring fun, we're going to bring excitement, we're going to bring activity, and we're going to benefit all the local businesses. We're going to increase home values, strengthen the economic viability for current businesses, spur redevelopment, and encourage innovative and new developments throughout the downtown. And we've already seen this kind of happen with Barron Colliers coming in to do the Imperial Crossings project. So that's very exciting. And how are we doing this? With bringing this unique and innovative idea, we are bringing more people to downtown. We're increasing multimodal transportation. And when we do that, we're driving activity to downtown Bonita Springs. Driving activity to downtown Bonita Springs, it's good for the city with increased tax revenues. It's good for our residents with more fun and entertaining things to do. It's good for our local businesses that will get more exposure and more people downtown. So we're really looking to be a partner in prosperity because a rising tide will float all ships. In activating downtown, we're going to bring new families through the job requirements that we'll have. This is going to be a community asset that'll be terrific with the Wonder Gardens, the library, the art festivals, Riverside Park, and it's an innovative outdoor dining experience. It's going to draw folks in from all over to our little downtown here. We had a lot of things that we planned in this to benefit the community. So our civic uses and community benefits, we have a nearly 600 square foot playground with a mist wall for cooling off. We have a 2-story breezy, inviting, open concept structure. We have shaded courtyard seating, open air deck and patio seating. We have 6 times the required amount of open and green space in our plan. We put in an elevator. We also have double the amount of toilet facilities that we are required for the use code, because we think it's important that keep those clean, keep those available for everybody to use. We're inspiring multimodal transportation, which supports the complete streets and the Bonita plan. We are also developing 25 community parking spaces at our cost, where the Lions Club Farmers Market is right now. And this is a value-add asset for the city. We're creating additional seating and event viewing for Riverside Park events, something that'll be fun for everyone. So I've told you a little bit about that, but this is where it's really terrific for our community in the economic and financial returns. We consulted with PFM Consulting for our economic impact statement. This was done in 2020, so I think that this is maybe a little bit low now. But PFM purchased Fishkind, who the city has used for different sorts of economic impact statements, so we wanted to use a company that the city would feel comfortable with in doing this impact statement. They are predicting $15,000 a year for local and state school boards from this project, $26,000 to Lee County, $93,000 to Lee County in impact fees. And the really exciting part is we've got this piece of land that was sitting on the city rolls, not producing any income, not producing anything. And they're projecting almost $18,000 a year on an annual basis from the tax revenues that we'll collect through this project. So it's very, very exciting. It's great for our city as well as our community. We're talking about short-term construction impacts of nearly $3 million rippling through the community, and an ongoing annual effect of $6 million rippling through our community from this little project on less than ½ an acre. So it's really very exciting. So where is the rooftop at Riverside, and what will it look like? Here we've got, this is right where we would like to put the food truck park. It's in front of Napa there and right across the street from Riverside Park. Down here, oh, got bad, oh, hitting the wrong button. Didn't think my aim was that bad. Here's where the Lions Club does their farmers markets every Wednesday. They won't be impacted, but what we will do is we will take this dirt lot and we will improve it so it is a nicer parking lot. The city's put over $20 million into Old 41. We've got a $25 million library, and we still have a dirt lot right on Old 41 right there. These parking spaces that we are providing will be owned by the city. We have agreed to maintain the cleanliness in the mornings, and we have agreed to pay to do the improvements for that spot. So the city will maintain control over this parcel, but these parking spaces will count towards our parking count. Here's a site plan for what we have. We have the two-story structure here. We've got 4 bathrooms on the first floor, 2 on the second floor. We've got 2 down here. We have 8 food truck pads all around. And the thing that we've done with the community in mind with this project is we are delivering water, sewer, electric, and propane to every single one of these food truck pads. And the reason that that's important is we're giving clean water and sanitary disposal for the food trucks. So we're not going to have stinky water, we'll have clean water. We're also delivering electricity to these units, so that means we are not going to have noisy generators. It's important for us that we're taking care of our neighbors and keeping them in mind. So we're putting electrical hookups at each specific unit. You won't hear noisy generators on our property. The other thing we wanted to do is put propane lines in, have propane hookups at each space there. The reason that this is so important is because we've seen it before with food trucks where they get stacks and stacks of empty propane tanks behind their food trucks. We don't want that. The aesthetic beauty of the property is extremely important to us. The cleanliness is extremely important to us. And so that's why we're putting this infrastructure in to really benefit the community and benefit our neighbors. And so we are keeping our neighbors and community in the forethoughts of our mind as we're developing this project. This is an example of what the parking lot will look like where the Lions Club does their farmers market. They will be displaced for a short period of time while we do construction, but then they'll be right back in there and right back in for season. So we think it's going to be a really great thing for the Lions Club to continue to do their farmers markets there, and whatever else the city would like to do, the city will have control. I'll go through these elevations pretty quickly here, but this is the north elevation. This is the east elevation as you're looking out towards Riverside Park. This is the south elevation if you're on the street, and this is the front elevation from Old 41. With the doors closed, we've got these big, beautiful, 12-foot tall Louisiana-style bifold doors, and this is what it looks like when it'll be open, and we just hope to see a few more people in there than you see there. Here's a quick 3D from the northwest perspective, and I have a quick video just to take you through. I'm not sure if this will, yeah, this did start it. So this is the front of the building. We're going to come along to the side here as you're looking. If you're driving south on Old 41, that's the north elevation, that's what you'll see. This is from inside the park. If you're inside the park looking out towards Riverside Park, that's the view that you'll have from there. This is the view that you'll see as you're driving north on Old 41. And we come back around here to the frontage view with the doors open. You can see we've got pergola covered patio seating and a really beautiful inside here. We're going to give you the bartender point of view as we move through this, and I'll go over a couple of things that I had in the site plan. So this is looking into the park towards Napa from that view. You come to this side, you see our elevator, and you see our stairway over there. This is the view out looking towards Riverside Park. And we come along the frontage street here, looking out that way. And we've got our 2 bathrooms up there and our staircase going down, and then we can drop down into the first floor. We've got 4 bathrooms there. And to the right over here is where our cooler will be. There's an access point there. And we look back out towards the Riverside Park, out towards this direction. So we've kind of told you a little bit about our plans, how we plan to be terrific community partners, how we plan to go through some of this, and really a vote to approve this food truck park is really truly a vote to make our city a better place. The special exception zoning criteria, we got a lot of this information here from city staff. Might be stepping on some toes, but we saw this slide a little bit earlier from Ms. Zizou over here. I'm not going to go through it, but to go through some of these criterion, I'll go through them quickly. This is exists a change or changing conditions that make the approval request appropriate. We need a special exception for the food truck park. We're going away from site-focused and use-focused zoning to form-based code. And so that's part of the reason that we need the zoning approval from you today. We are a proposed food truck park within the T5 transect of downtown district. And so your approval is also aligned with the goals set forth in RFP number 2002 that the city approved us on, not only to move forward with it, but also 7-0 on the approval for the purchase and sale agreement. But this aligns with the city goal of engaging private enterprise in the economic growth and redevelopment of downtown Bonita Springs. So we get a check on that one here. On B, on testimony of the applicant, we spent some time this morning talking about how we're a high-end and unique entertainment and dining venue, how we talked about our goals and objectives regarding the activation of downtown Bonita Springs. We talked about our civic uses and community benefits. We have a code-compliant site plan. We have a form-based code-compliant physical structure. Rooftop at Riverside will be an economic, financial, and job-creating powerhouse in Bonita Springs. The use is consistent with the T5 downtown Bonita Springs neighboring properties, and the rooftop at Riverside will activate the downtown corridor and inspire new businesses and developments like the new development Imperial Crossings by Baron Colliers. So you've had our testimony on that today. Testimony of staff, City Council voted to approve the purchase and sale agreement 7-0. City staff has been responsible and helpful through this process. It's my understanding staff is recommending approval on this with conditions. And those conditions that we've previously discussed have been reasonable and acceptable by Rooftop at Riverside. So we are ready to move forward on this. We also have testimony of the public. I know that Ruben and Audie are here today. I know that they'd like to say something at some point. They were at our recent neighborhood meeting. But the neighborhood meeting on February 9th had overwhelming neighborhood support. I asked the public towards the end of it, and I said, hey, by show of hands, how many of you folks out there think that this is a good idea and we should move forward with this? And I was just so overjoyed. I saw half the room raise one hand, and the other half of the room raise 2 hands. So just overwhelming public support in the project here. The neighborhood meeting that we had on the 29th last month, again, overwhelming public support. We didn't have one person that had an unkind word to say about the project. Lots of when can you start, when can you start, when can you start. We've had positive responses from Downtown Bonita Springs Alliance and Rotary Club presentations, and we've got so much excitement from downtown business owners and just folks in the community who stop us on the street and ask us, when can you get started, when is this coming in? So we have a lot of public groundswell support behind this project. Is it consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies and intent of the Bonita Plan? This is my favorite one because we absolutely nail this one. The Bonita Plan is intended to promote the development of a mixed-use downtown with a variety of building types and uses that support a viable and diverse local business and cultural institutions, walkable and complete streets, predictable standards, increased investment, attractive small-town urban character, and context-based development. This is like the definition of what we're doing. So we're very, very excited that we can support the Bonita Plan with this. The goals and objectives are to activate the downtown through the development of this new aesthetically pleasing entertainment and dining venue with an emphasis on multimodal transportation and drawing new innovative commercial investment in downtown Bonita Springs. So this one is very exciting because this is the whole goal of where we're trying to go with the project. Do we meet and exceed all performance locational standards set forth? We do. We are consistent with the T5 core standards. We talked about setback requirements, height requirements, lot coverage, facade and frontage requirements, and all kinds more. And to go above and beyond, just reiterating that we've increased the amount of restrooms that we need above our requirement by double. And we've also put in the water, sewer, electric, and propane to is something in thinking about the community and the aesthetic beauty of the property, thinking about our neighbors. So we are meeting and exceeding our requirements. This is a quick one. There are no environmentally sensitive issues around the property, so we don't have any issues there. We are compatible with existing and planned uses around it. We've got Chartreuse right next door. We have Engel's Bikes, Engel's Out of Line. We have Maria's. We have Downtown Coffee. We have the library. The use is compatible with all the businesses around it. And I do believe that when we are open and as we're going through this process, we're going to bring in more businesses that will further expand the development of the T5 core transect. We're not going to cause damage or be a nuisance. We're subject to LDC, Florida Building Code, ADA, FEMA. We're subject to the liquor license. We're subject to health code. There's a lot of things that we're subject to. We're subject to the noise control ordinance. And as I've said before, it's important to us that we are terrific community partners. We don't want to do anything that will conflict with Riverside Park or events or anything there. We want to be an asset to the community and be a place that the community can enjoy as well. So we are not a nuisance or a hazard. Criterion J, the last one, are we in compliance with all the zoning provisions? We're consistent with the T5 core transect in the downtown district. We're in compliance with the zoning provisions of LDC Chapter 4. So we are, we check all the boxes here. And in summary, and finish this up here quick, the history of Bonita Springs is the theme for the rooftop at Riverside. It's going to be fun and educational for our community and visitors, and it demonstrates our commitment to the city here. Our goal is to add value to our community through our project by activating downtown Bonita Springs, thereby encouraging new and innovative development, bringing more people to the downtown sector to increase sales and revenue for current business owners, increase property values for our residential neighbors, and be a great economic powerhouse for the downtown that will create terrific revenue and enjoyment for the city of Bonita Springs, businesses, and residents as we see the economic impact ripple across our community. City staff recommends approval, and Bonita Springs City Council voted 7-0 in favor of the purchase and sale agreement. Our response to the RFP was selected by the City of Bonita Springs because this was a project that fulfilled their goals of RFP number 2002 because of all the great community benefits and economic impact that we have on the city. We have tremendous public support from neighborhood meetings, from professional groups, and conversations with our local people who live around here. Everyone is so excited for this project. The rooftop at Riverside, we check all 10 boxes. So we hope that when you consider the approval for this project, you consider not only approval for the rooftop at Riverside, an approval for the city of Bonita Springs, and an approval for our citizens and our residents in our community. So I hope that we have shown you why life is better at the top, the rooftop at Riverside. Thank you so much. Be ready for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Magnus. On the zoning board, please question the applicant as you will. Any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
You can guarantee my vote if you do one thing. Can you move this project down the road to Imperial Crossing and substitute what Barry Collier's proposed?
Actually, we were told expressly by the city that that would not be allowed.
Lose again.
So it sounds like I lose your vote too.
Thank you.
Chris,
Thank you, sir.
I'm just kind of curious, you mentioned increase in employees. Roughly, what do you anticipate would be full-time equivalent employees?
It's going to be a little bit of a guess because we're working with 8 other food trucks, and we have not closed on those. We've not closed on the property yet, so we haven't selected the food trucks and gone through any of that right now. But between the bar and the food trucks, we're guessing it's probably going to be between 40 to 45 employees because we're looking at being open longer than 8 hours. So we're going to have a couple different employees in shifts and working on different rotations.
Anybody else in the zoning board? Any questions? Go ahead.
I just have a couple comments. First of all, it's a well-prepared presentation, well documented, and it looks very positive. But I have 2 things that I'd like you to consider. And they both, with respect to the 25 parking spots that are going to be created and owned by the city. I don't know if you've looked, well, whenever you pave an unpaved area, you create more runoff. And I would like to ask you to consider using porous pavement to allow runoff. And it's a consideration, not a requirement, but as you design it and do your planning, I think the use of porous pavement will contribute a little bit to reducing stormwater runoff. The other consideration is I think within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see electric vehicle charging stations in many, many locations. And we don't have a plan for that. And so as you look at these 25 parking spots, I'd like you to consider the possibility of making room for EV charging stations.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Vice Chairman, I've got lots of questions. And Chris, I commend you. I think your father, you said, was working with you on this?
Yeah, Jim, you want to come on up?
Hey, Jim. Hi, how are you? Good. And my questions are because I'm curious. I am your target market. Early in your presentation, you said dining and entertainment. Would you address entertainment, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Entertainment, we have a clear view of Riverside Park, so there will be, we'll be able to feed off of the entertainment not only at Riverside Park, but from time to time, we'd like to have music. I am 37 years old. I have 4 kids, and nothing makes me crazier than when I get a night out, and I go into a bar to watch a football game with a buddy or meet up with some friends with my wife, and we cannot talk to each other from across the table. That is not what we're looking for. We are looking for a family-friendly community environment, a gathering space where people can talk and enjoy each other. So we do plan to have entertainment from time to time. We would never, I think it's actually a part of our request for proposal. We've guaranteed that we would never conflict with Riverside Park. So if they're having something, it would not benefit them, it would not benefit us, it would not benefit the community to have 2 battling entertainments. So that's something that we've guaranteed as well. I believe even contractually in the purchase and sale agreement. I don't know if it's
I think I saw garden space or something. Is that where you'd put the folks with the piano and the acoustic guitar, or?
We talked about the amount of open and green space. When we were going through the request for proposal, there was a requirement for a certain amount of green space on your project. And so this project being under a half an acre, having so much outdoor open area and so much green space was something that the city was really looking for in the project. And so our argument was that, you can if you put a restaurant on there, you're going to have, something that may or may not have your pervious pavers. You're going to have a big impermeable footprint, and that's not what we are. We're not the impermeable footprint.
But the entertainment you'll have on site will be showing up and setting up in that green space.
I think it would probably be within the contained within the structure.
In a corner or something,
Yeah.
Okay. The Lions Club Farmers Market on Wednesdays, you said you're not impacting them if you're, and I'm a parking kind of guy. And you guys want to fill the place up every single day. Have you got enough parking nearby to do that?
The Lions Club typically shuts down before noon.
Their farmer's market on Wednesday shuts down before noon.
Yes, that's my understanding. It's more of a morning aspect where we don't, I don't know that we'll have a lot of breakfast trucks in the park. So I would imagine that there'd be plenty of room for that. They will be displaced while we do the construction on it, but this is an agreement that the city has with them. The city's maintaining ownership. The city will be able to do whatever they like with that.
So those 25 spaces, plus I think you said there were 7 or something on site, is that going to be enough?
Yes. Yes, we do have the exact amount of parking spaces that we need.
What's the capacity of the restaurant?
I believe it's 225, and the parking spaces we have are 42.
Yeah, but those are dedicated, and if you know that area pretty well, you've got a lot of parking, even across the tracks. You've got the dog park area, you've got area, by the library and so forth. So I think the parking, it's a good point, but I think there's sufficient, plus, again, with your dedicated parking, I think that issue will be easily rectified, really. I don't think, to me, right now, if you go downtown, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the evening, you see a few places open, but basically it's pretty empty, isn't it? So.
We're looking to be multimodal too, so we do have 9
Yes.
spots for bicycles, and so we hope to get a lot of people that'll be walking to go there as well from downtown, as well as biking.
So, talking about, and this, I'll save this one for the staff. Your only food is going to be the food trucks.
Correct.
Correct? And there's 8 spots.
Correct.
And do you anticipate, because I follow a couple of food trucks, there's many more than 8 available in the local area, in the Southwest Florida area. So how do you envision having 8 trucks there? Is it going to be the same 8? Is it going to be, you're going to put out a call to all the food trucks you can find and have them sign up, compete?
Well, we haven't quite gotten that far because we don't own the property yet. But we, as part of the conditions for approval with the city, we will have to show an ingress and egress plan for the food trucks. I believe, by and large, if we get some good operators in there, we really want to keep those good operators, because you're talking about people that are using high quality food, people that have good customer service skills, people that are pleasant to be around. We get some good operators. We want to keep some of those good operators around. But I do think that we will have some spaces that will be more transitory and some spaces that will be more permanent.
Where's the central propane tank going to be?
Tico gas line runs down 41, and it's actually on the same side of the road as we are. And so that's a big advantage for us. We'll be able to bring Tico gas to each pad.
We've got propane pumped through downtown Bonita Springs.
It's Tico gas, and that's...
I guess it's liquid propane at that point. So you just need to tap into the line and get your own meters.
Yes.
And then underground service to a stub coming up at each parking spot.
Yes.
That's great.
I just learned something. I didn't know we had.
Yeah, who knew?
Pays to come to these meetings.
And Bruce, I'm sorry, I've heard Imperial Crossings 3 times this morning. Could somebody give me a quick briefing on that?
Imperial Crossings is the...
Because you said you're going to be like them, I think I heard you say.
I was making the point that when the city of Bonita Springs put out RFP number 2002, where they put the city properties up for sale, they had one proposal for, some people call it the Bamboo Village property. The marketing team renamed it Imperial Crossings to get some more support for it. And there was only one group interested in doing anything for the RFP, and they were denied. So once we were accepted, all of a sudden the city of Bonita Springs started getting in a proposal for this, a proposal for this, a proposal for this. So that's where the city actually went in and did end up choosing Barron Collier to move forward with that project. So that was an example of how the food truck park and the expectation of this development is bringing new and innovative businesses and design to Bonita Springs.
And where is it?
It's straddling the Imperial River. It's Goodwin and is that Felds?
It's
No,
not, it's not Goodwin, no. No, Goodwin is.
Yeah, it's Goodwin
yes, it is.
on the it's Goodwin on the north side, and it's it abuts Benson's and Survey Cafe on the south side.
So north, upstream from you.
Yeah, so it's a block,
Be north.
block north.
Is that your list, Gary, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, I was making sure I got everything, so I don't have to call you back.
That's fine. Anybody else?
Good job, gentlemen. Jim, you did well with this one.
I think at this point, I think it would be appropriate to get public comment, I think, on the applicant's
Bruce got
presentation.
Unless you want to hear from staff.
Ben?
Oh, staff, you want to hear from staff? Well, that's another issue. Okay.
One more question.
Yes, go right ahead.
At your public meetings, you had a question about hours of operation each day, and how many days a week are you gonna be open? Can you answer those questions now?
We would like to be open 7 days a week, and we'd like to be open till 11:30 at night. You know, as I told you earlier, we're not looking for a big party, smash, drinking time. We're looking for something that'll be valuable for the city, where people can gather, spend time together, actually have a conversation while they're having a drink, and really enjoy themselves. The city has not approved our hours of operation yet, but we would like to be open till 11:30.
And starting when?
Starting,
In the morning?
probably around
I'm looking
11.
for a place to eat breakfast.
No breakfast food.
It's, you know, I think that the start time, we don't have a 100% nailed down yet. Some of that's going to depend on what kind of trucks that we get in, and it might change on Sundays because I know that there's some church services at the park, and I think that would be a wonderful opportunity for the community to engage with a truck or two that wanted to be open for that. And you know, we want to be able to work with the community and be an asset here in Bonita Springs.
Yeah, Russ?
I'm the senior pastor of that church in the park, and I'll let you know that you'll probably get some walkers over there.
We'd love that.
Everybody's looking for a place to eat after the service.
We would love that.
We'd love that.
Sunday brunch.
Ben, I'm sorry, I found one more on my
Go
list.
right ahead.
Somewhere in the packet it says something about pet friendly.
Yes.
What's your vision? What do you see?
We plan to be pet friendly. If folks want to walk their dogs, it's part of the multimodal aspect of Complete Streets. Is if you're going to take your dog for a walk, maybe you want to stop somewhere that's pet friendly. And so, of course, we require dogs to be on leashes and that sort of thing. But we've also had some different thoughts about different kinds of doggy snacks and things that we can do to treat our furry friends too.
So I go to the food truck, I get my styrofoam container of food, bring it back inside your confines, your building. And Derek, my dog can sit there with me? Or do we have to be in the exterior seating?
That's not I mean, I don't know the rules on that with respect to DBPR and issues like that, but I suspect the answer is yeah. There's no city rules on it.
It's outside, there'll be no problem.
For the record, Jacqueline Genson, there's actually Florida statutes that regulate that matter. So, and it's a whole litany of lists that an operator has to abide by.
Understood. So, but from my understanding, dining with your pet exterior, Jackie, is okay?
Correct. We just actually approved a doggy dining permit. So there's that's what we call it, and there's a whole list of how the operators have to actually have separate stations and cleaning areas, and I mean it's very detailed on the state's radar because it has been so popular.
And this is new to Bonita Springs?
It's not new, actually.
The dining permit?
No, we've had it on the books for, I would say, about 6 or 7 years. So, it's definitely a process that's regulated by the state.
Russ?
I think Fifth Avenue down in Naples has had that for years. People bring their dogs all up and down Fifth Avenue. They have, and even the restaurants accommodate them with different dishes out there. So I know that's kind of functional back, for years over there, just to give you a point of reference.
Yeah, we run into it too, but it's always exterior. You gotta stay outside the building.
I know of several.
Patio dining or whatever you wanna call it.
I know of several restaurants here in Bonita where there's outside dining and people bring their pets. I mean, whether, I always assumed there was an approval, kind of a hidden approval somewhere, because there's no violation, I don't think with any state laws or anything of that nature. But anyway, I've seen it. I've been at restaurants where that is now in effect, here in Bonita, especially in the morning.
So there's outside dining in this proposal.
And there
This
are
site
picnic
plan.
tables, outside dining. Yes, sir.
Okay, now I guess we'll hear from Mike Figon, who'll make the presentation on behalf of the city.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good morning, everybody. Mike Figon for the record, Senior Planner with Community Development. Chris and Jim kind of stole my thunder there, so I really don't have too much to say.
I'm happy you said that, actually.
Yeah, I'll just be brief and just give you, I'll just give you the Cliff Notes version and give you a brief overview. Like I said, we're in agreement with them as well. We do think it's going to be a good project that does meet the intent of the comp plan and that it meets all the criteria established for special exceptions within the city. So there's no disagreement in those aspects at all. So we'll just go through this relatively quickly. The staff review team, we put it through its paces. It had the normal review team in all disciplines reviewing this application: engineers, environmental, bike ped, traffic, floodplain. We reached out to BSU as well to get their feedback, and everybody gave their blessing after some additional comments, of course. The request, we're familiar with the request. One thing to keep in mind is the request that is before you today is for the mobile food vendor park. So while you heard a lot about the restaurant building itself is permitted by right in the T5 core transect. The reason why you see it on a lot of the plans and the reason why you see it on the site plan and you see it in the staff report is because the site is meant to function essentially as one cohesive unit between the building and the food truck park. So you see lots of references to the building on there. You see some architectural elevations for the building itself, but the request is for the mobile food vendor park portion of the property. That is what requires the special exception. A bar and restaurant use is permitted by right downtown and within the T5 core transect, which is where this property is located. Obviously, we're familiar with the location. There's the big yellow star there showing you where, like Chris and Jim had said, it is across the street from Riverside Park. It is currently city-owned property. Zoomed in a little bit more, it is actually a combination of two parcels, and one of the conditions of approval to help remove issues with setbacks for property lines and things of that nature would be to go ahead and combine the properties into one property. This is where it is in location for the downtown transect map. Essentially, it's smack dab in the middle of the downtown district is where we're looking. It is surrounded by T5 property and T5 core property, which allows for a mixture of uses, commercial and residential alike. Some background, which I think you've already heard most of. This came out of an RFP that the city put out back in January of 2020. The original bid deadline was supposed to be mid-April. Because of COVID, it was extended out to May, and ultimately presentations were made in front of council in October of 2020, and this particular project was selected to move forward. Obviously, part of the agreement is that they need to go ahead and get the necessary approvals and permits from the city to move forward, one of which is this special exception for the vendor park. So as we said, it is in the T5 core downtown district transect. The future land use category is also within the downtown district. The site, it includes a site for up to 8 vendor spots. There is outdoor seating included on the plan, both within the green space area and also actual outdoor seating along the restaurant and bar building itself. They are going to construct an additional 7 spaces along the north side of the property. One thing to keep in mind is that there is existing parallel parking along Old 41 and on the south side along Reynolds Street, which they are also able to use. And this is why, from the staff perspective, parking really isn't much of an issue. As well, they are going to construct the 25 spaces on the Lemon Tree lot. They have been in touch with the communications department, working with city staff and the attorney's office to make sure that the Lions Club is aware of what's going to be happening going forward, and that those considerations be made. So you saw the site plan. This is the exact same plan that Chris showed in his presentation. You see the spots for the 8 vendors. You can see the outdoor dining area right there that's in the main green space, and then they're also going to have dining along this aspect here for the building. So it is going to accommodate outdoor dining as well as indoor. Same site plan, just with the second story of the bar restaurant building being shown. That was one of the original rough concepts for the off-site parking area. One of the things to keep in mind is that there are parking design standards for downtown that they will have to meet. They are not requesting any deviations or variances from those standards. This was a very rough concept that you see. It doesn't show the landscaping. It doesn't necessarily show all the required pedestrian connections to the sidewalks and so forth. All that will be addressed as part of the local development order approval. And like I said, they are not requesting any deviations or variances from those standards. And one of the requirements that we have is that if you do plan to build an off-site parking lot, and if the overall intent is for it to service a particular use, which again, it's sort of up in the air because this is going to be just general parking for whoever, but they are building it. They are the stewards of this particular piece of property for the food truck park, so we did have them review this parking based on that criteria, which says that you need to go ahead and show us the location of your proposed off-site parking area. You need to show us the pedestrian circulation routes, and with it to really keep in the spirit of being walkable, quote unquote, the code stipulates that it should be within 800 feet of the proposed use, and it's just a little over 500 feet, so they are exceeding that standard. Some of the elevations that you've already shown, actually Chris and Jim's were better because they had a nice fly-through video. I just have stills, I'm sorry. But the building and the site from a different angle. This angle right here, this is the parking that they're going to be building along the north side of the property, and as you can see, they're using the brick paver parking, and that is in concert with the parking that the city has built downtown of the same type and the same design. We requested that they keep consistent with that, and that's what the conceptual renderings show. A little bit more interior walkway within the building and the site itself. You can see some of the locations of some of the proposed food trucks. Again, from another angle. Comp plan consistency, this was already addressed, but we'll go ahead and go over it again with you. Future land use, it is within the downtown district, and I think the statement that sort of brings it home is the fact that the purpose of the downtown district is intended to promote the development of a mixed-use downtown with a variety of building types and uses to support viable and diverse local businesses and cultural institutions, walkable and complete streets, predictable standards, business investment, attractive small-town urban character, and context-based development. And we feel that this project does demonstrate consistency with those standards specifically. With the infrastructure element, city and water sewer is available. There is an existing stormwater permit. It's a master permit that covers a significant portion of the downtown district, including this piece. There is a ledger that is kept, so whenever a new property comes in for development, it's marked off on the ledger, and the permit is amended with the South Florida Water Management District. So we're not foreseeing any issues in that aspect. For transportation element, Old 41 is obviously a little bit of a constrained right-of-way in terms of there's not really a whole heck of a lot of room for expansion for when it does get really busy in terms of adding additional lanes or capacity. So one of the things that the comprehensive plan requires is that if you are along a constrained roadway, that you provide multimodal transportation. So the city's done a big chunk of that already in terms of providing the sidewalk connectivity, the crosswalks, things like that. What Chris and Jim are proposing to do is add additional pedestrian connections to the site including sidewalks. They're going to go ahead and be including 3 times the required bicycle parking. So they are meeting that standard as far as being able to provide multimodal transportation, multimodal connections. For environmental, there are no environmentally sensitive lands on site. With regards to landscape code, it's a little bit flexible with downtown because, again, the goal of the T5 core transect is for it to be a little bit more urban in feel, which is why you have the buildings pushed up to the road. You have lot coverages that allow 90% plus for the building. So while they are providing ample green space, there will be some landscape requirements that we're going to work with them on to see if they can go ahead and meet. But again, they are not requesting any deviations or variances from any of those standards. It's going to be by the book with the code. With regard to the special exception criteria, I don't think there's too much I can add to that. I think Chris and Jim covered it pretty well. Going through it line by line with what the criteria are. With the changing conditions that make the approval appropriate. The passage of the form-based code was obviously the catalyst for that one, and the city's goal of economic redevelopment and having that form-based code be the launching point for that, and this is just the next evolutionary step in that process. Testimony of the applicant, staff, and the public, I think that one speaks for itself. The performance or location standards, it is going to be designed consistent with the T5 core standards. The T5 core is what requires the special exception. They are here with that today, so they are doing it by the book for what is required. Protection of environmentally critical areas and natural resources. Again, there are none observed on site that would cause any conflicts with that particular criteria. Compatibility with existing or planned uses. Again, it's smack dab in the middle of the city along Old 41 within the T5 core. It's surrounded by T5 core property, which allows for a multitude and mix of uses, and this is very much compatible and consistent with the planned uses for the downtown area. It won't cause damage, hazard, or nuisance. Again, it's going to have to meet the form-based code. It's going to have to meet Florida Building Code, ADA standards, FEMA standards, and from the nuisance standpoint, one of the conditions of approval is that the noise ordinance remains in full force and effect, so no special treatment on that aspect of it. So there are built-in protections with that as well. And compliance with general zoning provisions. Again, they've applied for the necessary special exception, which is required. They're not requesting any deviations or variances. They held both of their required neighborhood meetings. We haven't received any negative feedback from any of the general public with regards to this request. So we do feel that they are meeting the intent of all of the special exception criteria that you have before you. And with that, we have the conditions of approval, which were already discussed. It'd be valid for this applicant only, and we would want the site to be generally consistent with the site plans and renderings that are provided to you. We are going to require that they provide a maintenance plan for how the food trucks are going to exit and enter the site, and they would need to provide that as part of the local development order process, which is their engineering process. We also are going to require them to coordinate with Public Works for the northern parking area because it does back out into a city-maintained alleyway. So we are going to ask that they coordinate with Public Works for that. The lot combo, unity of title, we talked about that. It just makes it cleaner for all parties involved. A lighting plan, it is relatively standard that along with your local development order permits, you provide a lighting plan. We're going to ask them to do the same, and we're going to ask them to make sure that it meets all of the lumen standards for nuisance glare. With the off-site parking for the 25 spaces, we are going to request that they coordinate obviously with city staff, but also with the Public Works Department for any curb cuts or pedestrian connections or anything like that that goes into the city right-of-way. The other condition is that the noise ordinance remains in full force and effect. Any changes that are going to be requested would require additional approvals. So this is very narrowly scoped to the food truck park. If there are other items that they need, we can go through the LDC for the approval process, and if it ends up being administrative, that's great. If it ends up being a public hearing, then it is what it is. And then obviously the big one is it needs to be consistent with the T5 core standards of the form-based code. The city spent a lot of time, effort, and money designing that code and getting it passed, and we're very hopeful for what it can bring when utilized appropriately and properly. and the fact that they are not requesting any deviations or variances from that particular code is very promising to the city. So with that, if you have any questions or comments for me, I'm happy to answer. Hope I went through that quick enough.
Zoning Board, questions of Mike?
Go figure, I got lots. I want to back up, and Jim and Chris, you might as well come down front. We learned today that there's gas piped through Old 41 in downtown Bonita?
In the right-of-way.
You're right, not on the street, in the right-of-way. And I assume that's, and we've been calling it propane. It's not propane, it has to be natural gas, right? Anybody?
Natural gas.
It's natural gas. So these, what is it, these trucks are gonna pull up and their cooking equipment is accustomed to propane gas.
The way I understand it works is that they have a different attachment that they use to be able to utilize from that.
So this stub up that you've got of natural gas, somebody's gonna have to provide an adapter.
I believe that's correct. We do have our contractors here if you have any questions for them. We do have them
Well,
available.
just so you thought through it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so now back to Mike. You, and this is part of the RFP?
Correct?
So the city council saw a variety of RFPs and decided upon this one?
Correct.
Do you know how many were presented?
Do you guys remember?
We can answer that question.
Sure, that's why I asked.
There were two responses to the request for proposal.
You and one other.
Correct.
And I assume it wasn't the Imperial Crossings place.
Yes, it was
It was.
It was, okay.
There was only one for this parcel.
Okay. So the council approved this, so they've already seen it, they're just looking for us to help work out details and such. Mike, I don't see in the packet here public comments. Nobody presented any written public comment?
We sent out the notices and did not have any responses come back.
We'll be getting that soon.
We do have a couple of people here that will comment that were at the neighborhood meeting.
Y'all are thumbs up?
Yes, well, we'll find out, okay?
Okay. So having come from a state to the north, which all of them are, and we went to liquor by the drink fairly recently, this is a question for the staff and the attorney group. This is a bar when the food trucks aren't, this is a bar regardless, it's not a restaurant. There's no on-site, there's no within the premises preparation of food, correct?
Correct.
So when there are no food trucks present, Bonita Springs allows a bar without, liquor by the drink without food being served?
Well, that's what the special exception request is for.
Who said they could answer that?
It depends on the type of liquor license that you have. There is a restaurant liquor license, which is an SRX license. If you can show that at least 51% of your revenue is from food, then you can do the SRX license. If you cannot do that, which we cannot do, you have to purchase a 4-cop. COP is consumption on premises. And so the 4-cop license will allow you to have a liquor store, have a bar, have a nightclub. It allows you to sell alcohol without selling food.
So you're having to pay for the more expensive license?
Yes.
I assume it's way more expensive.
We did already.
Yes, from a zoning perspective, a bar is a permitted use downtown. Now, whether or not they can go ahead and satisfy all the state requirements to make it happen, that's where there's, but yes, from a zoning perspective, a bar is an allowed use downtown.
I see, talk to me, I'm being of that age, I'm concerned about bathrooms. These are clearly gonna be public bathrooms, I think.
Yes.
Isn't the concept of the city and our ongoing plans that we have a pedestrian-friendly Old 41 and folks are going from business to business?
Correct.
Right? So where are there bathrooms available at Riverside? Are they on the back side of that band shell? How many are in there?
4 to 6, I would guess.
Yeah.
Some, Are they open all the time?
No,
They're only open when there's a event going on at the park.
I believe so.
So you see where I'm going. If we're creating a lot of pedestrian traffic on the street, where are folks gonna go to the bathroom?
I just,
think that's
again, when they have some special functions downtown, whether it be an art show or something else, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people.
Yep.
And
Porta potties.
porta potties, I
That's what
guess,
they have down
if
there.
that ever
Yeah, those
became to
big
that
events.
particular need, I suppose, but, basically, it's not a problem. Yes, John, you have a comment?
Bathrooms are a building code issue that they're required to provide in terms of number and type. They already said that they have doubled that minimum requirement, so I think that we're good in terms of bathrooms.
My concerns would be more addressed to changes in the building code rather than.
Yes, sir.
And I'm gonna go back to parking for a little bit. In today's world, folks are getting pickup and or delivery a lot. And I don't see it changing in the very near future. It could be years, another generation before it changes back. But is the staff convinced that we've got enough parking for this, given that there's going to be folks driving up, picking up at the food truck and not coming into the building, not coming into the facility and driving away? And or for something for you guys to think about, what was it, 7 spaces right there? That they're reserved for, Uber and Grubhub and.
I would think from a community standpoint, I'd be pretty, I guess from a community and consumer standpoint, I'd be pretty frustrated if I couldn't find a parking spot because the business was holding a space for Uber. As a consumer, I wouldn't be real thrilled that wasn't available. But the fact is Uber or any company, Uber Eats or something like that, what they'll do is if these food trucks sign up for it, which will be up to the food truck vendors, someone will come in and make their order, wait, and then go back to their vehicle and then drive off. So I really don't see a parking issue with that.
Excuse me, Russ, let me ask you this. I've gone through the downtown area, on Sunday mornings. How many people would you say would be at a Riverside Park on average during season?
For our service?
Yeah, for your service. Just a rough guess.
Last year, we hit 6 to 650 a couple times.
Wow.
600.
Yeah.
Okay. And
where
that's in 1 hour.
And where do they all park?
They're all around the park. And, if you get that type of volume coming in, you have the city park there that accommodate that. And it's close enough it's a nice walk. The city's done a great job in the ambiance of that. And so it's a very peaceful, nice little walk to go get you a meal, so there's enough parking around the area.
In terms of
before you
public
speak-
spaces, there's public spaces that have been approved on Front Street. There are spaces behind the band shell. There are spaces along Old 41. The city also has 90-degree parking along Felt Street. So in addition to the spaces they're looking to provide, the 25 additional spaces for the Lemon Tree lot, there are several hundred spaces in this general area that are available to the public.
John, let me ask you this question, or perhaps it would be Derek. Whether it's this project or any other project, you look at it isolated from all the others from the standpoint of, in other words, whether it complies with the requirements for that particular project, how much anticipated traffic flow, foot traffic, whatever, relative to parking. And they have done that. So sometimes we might get a feel, yes, it enters into the conversation on a much more global way. But it has complied. In fact, it's gone beyond it. So sometimes you have to watch that. Just my own comment.
I appreciate that, Ben. I do.
You're on a roll, Gary. Keep going.
Maybe the staff can answer this. Momentum Brewery, I guess it wasn't exactly the central corridor, but it was on Bonita Beach Road within the city limits. And then they moved out on the other side of 75.
Correct?
Famous for food trucks and outdoor, and then suddenly they lost the ability to have food trucks. Can you address that, please?
I don't believe that's been the case.
Something happened.
But again, I'm not sure what that has to,
They never had the ability to have food trucks. So when
Expand upon that, please.
they just brought food trucks out to their site. There was no permit given. There was not, in fact, at the time, there were only 5 food trucks that were allowed total in Bonita Springs. We revised the ordinance to allow them multiple places. However, to my knowledge, have you gotten a permit?
yeah, no, they had the, they were one of the reasons why the code needed to be changed, because they did have the 5 active permits. What the issue was is in the old version of the code, you had that tied to a specific mobile food vendor, and they were trying to bring in more vendors other than what their permits allowed for. The new version of the mobile food vendor code, we don't permit specific vendors, we permit locations for vendors to go. So the property owner has the ability to rotate in and out as they see fit, which is an example of what Chris and Jim said they were going to do.
This is new to us, the city of Bonita Springs. And what happened at Momentum was a driver, or example of where we needed change?
Mr. Gambrell, I mean, the answer is yes and no. So the city issued permits for specific vendors. The legislature changed that process. When we received prior approvals for specific vendors, we generally looked at the locations they were going at. So what's happened is, under the current regime in the state of Florida, you cannot limit the number of food truck vendors. You have to regulate them like you do with anything else from your zoning code. So the code was changed to say we can have an unlimited number of food truck vendors, but their locations are what needs to be governed, because really it's the locations that you're protecting the public against the externalities of traffic and trash and bathrooms and all those issues. And so the first one we've had come through was this one in the downtown tied to this project.
So the food truck itself gets some kind of health code grade from somebody.
Correct.
And in the past, the city of Bonita Springs required each truck to have its own permit, but now these folks get Jim and Chris get the permit, and they can rotate any number of food truck vendors that are properly
Correct.
Right.
health certified.
Yes, we permit the locations, and with that, they would have we sort of give them a little disclaimer on the application that says that in the event the city comes to do an inspection of the individual vendors, we need to see their license, their health certificate, so on and so forth.
So that's part of, you have to, I just heard you say you have to see the health certificate? The city has to see the health certificate?
If the city pops up for an inspection, we request that those vendors have those materials on site.
And the permit for Jim and Chris is gonna say, you guys need to make sure they have a proper...
It'll be part of the mobile food vendor permit, yes.
Sounds like an improvement to me.
That's the goal.
Any more?
I thought that was a good question.
All right, now, I think at this point, any other comments or questions? Okay, now, public comment. Just identify yourself when you're at the microphone, please.
Hello, my name is Ruben Zamora. I'm an Air Force veteran, real estate agent, and a local homeowner here in Bonita Springs, Florida. I'm here to show my overwhelming support for this project. I did want to touch on a couple of things that you guys have discussed. Obviously, parking is going to be an issue that keeps on coming up in this conversation. I did want to highlight that there is already parking along Feltz and Reynolds. That is, there's also a large parking lot that is underutilized between Feltz, Abernathy, and Ragsdale. So that's an underutilized parking lot as well. In discussions with Imperial Crossing, they are proposing additional parking as well between Wilson and Feltz. So and this project specifically is already doubling the required amount of bathrooms and overflow parking for this specific project. Now, this exemption is specifically for the food truck. I did want to highlight that Naples, Florida did propose a similar park like this, which is in the Bay Shore District. And they were able to approve 8 food trucks in there, which is now called Celebration Park. This project was brought a lot of highlights to an underused community off of Bay Shore They have had great success there, which I anticipate that it's going to be similar here in Bonita Springs. I believe this is definitely going to bring a lot of tourism and places Bonita Springs as a destination, not only for the beaches, but also for their entertainment, food, and additional activities for everybody. I think this is a great project that is going to be considerate of all ages, not just young, but also everyone. I think it's very inclusive. And I do want to say that I have been to the meetings that they have had. It has had overwhelming public support. And I do want to reiterate that my property is neighboring to this project. So this is going to be basically my backyard. So if you guys are considering if it's going to provide any nuisance or anything, most of my neighbors are also very happy with this project as well. We have all been to the public meetings, and we don't have any problems with this. And I did want to reiterate that the special exemption is for the food trucks itself, which I think is a great way to be able to bring in 8 additional restaurants without having to build additional footprints. So we just take that into consideration, that it is going to be 8 different restaurants that are coming in, which is going to provide additional venues for us. So I did want to just say that. So.
Anybody else from the public?
Hello, good morning. My name is Kyle Moran. I'm a nearly 30-year resident of this area, and I own a residential property very near this project. In fact, I paced it off yesterday. It's about 70 paces from my front door to this project, so call it 200 feet or so. I've also attended neighborhood meetings, and I've read through the materials prepared by the applicant for this exemption. I'm here to talk in support of this food truck exemption. I think, one, for anyone with questions about the permanency and robustness of the structure that they're planning to build, in my 30 years here in Bonita Springs, I'm unaware of any other project in the downtown area that is non-residential, constructed with private dollars, that is anywhere close to the size and robustness of this project. That's exceptionally important for a downtown area where our city, within the past 3 years alone, has spent probably $30 million putting in major streetscape improvements, changing the way water flows, putting in massive amounts of public parking, all in this very specific downtown, most of which is between Bonita Beach Road and Terry Street. And so far we have very little to show for it. So it's very important that we approve a project like this and the exemption to make it possible. I think it's totally consistent with the city's goals in that way. I have a lot of experience with food trucks, particularly in my undergraduate years. I went to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, where the streets are dotted with food trucks, and they're a central part of this food supply down there, not just for students, but also for staff, and there's a big hospital there too, and hospital workers regularly and doctors regularly get food from there. In fact, I remember freshman year, my father came to visit from Bonita, and I said, he asked where we're going to get lunch. I said, I eat at the food trucks all the time. He said, geez, I don't know if I really want to eat at a food truck. So we arrive at the food truck, and there's a line of doctors in these white coats, and I think it was pretty clear to him that if prestigious doctors from a Ivy League research hospital were eating at the food truck, is probably good enough for him. Another story about food trucks and their importance to the small business community comes from my experience in Philadelphia too. There was a commercial restaurant spot that had become a revolving door of Subways and Quiznos that couldn't really make it work. And one of the more popular food trucks that was downtown in our city was a Greek truck, Greek Lady Olga. And she moved into that spot, and she's been operating there successfully for over 10 years. So food trucks really are a great incubator for small businesses, and that's something that's exceptionally important to our downtown too. So I hope you really do consider this special exemption. And when people ask you about food trucks, just remember those doctors standing in line, and remember Greek Lady Olga moving into a spot and being really successful with it. So I appreciate that. And let me just take one aside, if you will, Mr. Vice Chairman. It's important for people in our city to realize the efforts underway in this downtown. This downtown used to be the heart of the city, going back 100 years. In recent decades, and certainly since 41 was relocated in the mid-70s to its present location, this became the most overlooked area within Lee County and became very downtrodden. And you can see that in the lack of jobs, in the lack of incomes, and in the lack of economic activity. And there's been some real visionary leadership within this city over time to acquire a lot of land there and to spend a lot of money. In fact, I said we spent $30 million roughly on improvements and new code and things just in the last 3 years. If you add in the construction of the county's new library, if you add in the city's acquisition of lands, some of which go back 20 years, we're talking about $50 or $60 million in an area that's probably 50 or 100 acres. So we're now at this interesting intersection where we either get behind a lot of the efforts that are happening down there to bring private dollars in, or we let this massive public investment go to waste. And so it's important for everyone to realize that we've radically changed the code down there. There have been a lot of studies, from the comprehensive plan of the city to the Bonita plan to the Gibbs retail study to a DPZ analysis that inform a lot of what's happening down there. And there are a lot of interesting projects that could go forward, like this Baron Collier project on this land that's owned by the city that used to be a very downtrodden mobile home park. And the city said something very interesting to private developers. They said, we want you to come in and build a really great development there that's going to activate downtown. However, we want there to be massive amounts of public access and park space, and we want to own the land. We're not going to allow the private developer to own the land. And we actually have a potential developer that is going to thread that impossible needle. So it's not for me to say whether that's a right project or not. That's for staff and councils and so forth. But I think it is important for our community to understand the amount of investment and intensity that we put into that area and the hard work and efforts a lot of people like the Magnus family are making to actually build something great out of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That was very impressive. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else who's actually burning with desire they have to speak at this point? Okay, seeing none, I have a couple of comments if you'll permit me. I remember driving through downtown Bonita Springs in 2003, 2004 with some friends. And they asked me, said, Ben, where is the downtown area? And I said, well, maybe it's going to be on either side of Terry Street. I don't know. I says, I'm sure it's got to be every city has a downtown. Well, I decided to build my home and found out what I saw was what you get. And then in 2006, there was going to be the Anti-Ramian project, I guess. I remember that well and how excited I was. I'm not getting any younger. I was a kid when I came in, relatively speaking, and now I'm up there. And this is a sight for sore eyes, and I'm making a personal comment, and I don't mean to go afield, but when I looked at the concept drawings, I was quite impressed. It gave me kind of an old Florida flair. And so with that said, and by the way, gentlemen, you did not leave out one of the most highlights of the downtown, and that was the beautiful roundabout at Terry Street. That is probably the nicest one in the whole state of Florida. I'll get killed for that comment. At this point, I would like to go ahead and any other comments by staff or anybody, zoning board members?
I've got one quick question.
Go right ahead, Gary.
Because somebody's going to ask me. It's to the staff. What are we calling? It's not a restaurant. What are we calling this space? How does it fall into our code where we dictate number of parking spaces, number of handicap spaces? What's it called?
It's a mobile food vendor park with a bar/restaurant building. The reason why I call it bar/restaurant is it's the same parking calculations for downtown.
So when we calculate seating capacity, it's actually falling under the guidelines of restaurant?
Yes, and it's not based on seating capacity. It's based on square footage of the space.
Okay.
Got it.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and, if I may, make a motion that the zoning board approve the request for a special exception for a mobile food vendor park on properties in the downtown district pursuant to LDC Land Development Codes, Section 4-868, in conjunction with the conditions outlined by staff. That is the motion, I guess. It's project name Rooftop at Riverside, SPE 21-82680-BOS, and that is the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I second that.
Seconded by Russ. Any further discussion? All those in favor, get roll call, I'm sorry.
Linda Waterhouse,
Yes.
Gerald Benson,
Yes.
Ben Hershenson,
Yes?
Gary Gambrell,
Yes.
Russ Wynn,
Yes.
Bruce Galloway.
Yes.
Motion carries. Is there anything else to come before this august body this afternoon or this morning? None at all? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Gary moves to adjourn the meeting.
You got it. All those in favor? Thank you all very much.
Thank y'all for coming.